No, I don't know about you, but when I hear that hymn, that song, I don't know if it's possible to be in a bad mood. And I've only heard that one other time out of church. And I asked Elisa how I should start the sermon this morning, and I ran an idea by her. And she said, "You cannot say that in church." And I said, "Yeah, you're right." So here goes. The last time I heard that, I was on our kitchen floor on all fours. I had just cleaned up a mess that one of our dogs had left. Elise had a little Tibetan Terrier, Bosco, who as she got older lost controls of her bowel, and she had left me a puddle. I was out, I came home. Elisa was still working. I didn't want her to have to come home and clean this up. So I got paper towels and I cleaned it up. Then I got the bleach, and I was on all fours, and I sprayed the bleach down real good on our tile floor in the kitchen, and then I couldn't move. My back totally locked up. And I mean, there was no move. I couldn't even, I wanted to roll off. I couldn't even do that. The pain was just searing down my legs. So I waited for Elisa to call, as she normally does when she's leaving work, and I said, "You have to get home." And she wanted to call 911. And I said, "You're not calling 911. We live in the same town where I worked as a cop for 25 years. I was facing the back of the house, which meant the other side of me was facing the front door. And if those cops walked in, I guarantee you the only thing they would do was take out their cell phones and start taking cameras, took pictures. But I was there, I bet 10 or 15 minutes. And finally, Elisa got my son and our neighbor, and they picked me up, and it was almost like Weekend at Bernie's. I was in this position. They got me on a stool, and Elisa fed me a bunch of pain pills and muscle relaxers and antispasmodic medicine that I took. And I guess in about 10 or 15 minutes when they kicked in, my son and our neighbor kind of carried me over and dumped me onto the couch in the family room. I forgot to tell you this. Before I got home, I had some iced teas. I guess I was at lunch. I had to go to the bathroom, but I thought, I'll wait. I can do it once I get home. So by the time our neighbor left and Corey went to school, it was just my wife and I, my bride and I, sitting on our leather sofa. And I said to her, "We have a problem." And I said, "This is an emergency." And she did what any good wife would do. She ran into the kitchen and grabbed whatever she could, and it was a Tupperware container, one of those square ones. And I'm going to stop the story right there. It does get better. But when I was on all fours, on that floor, as crazy as this sounds, I started laughing because I started singing in my head, "He's got the whole world in his hands." I don't know why, but I don't know whether that got me through the 10 or 15 minutes I was there on all fours, but it did, and that's one of the reasons, well, that is the reason I picked that hymn this morning. Well, caveat to that, if you're ever invited over our house for a meal, and Elisa asked if you want to bring leftovers home, if she puts it in a Tupperware container, skip it. The title of the sermon this morning is Kintsukuroi. This is an example of Kintsukuroi. I don't know if you can see it back there. It's the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with gold lacquer. And the belief that this item is more beautiful or more valuable after having been repaired. It's the belief that it is more valuable and more beautiful for having been broken. I studied the Japanese martial arts of Aikido and Jiu-Jitsu, so I was at least familiar with some of the Japanese culture, and I had heard about this Kintsukuroi. I hadn't thought about it until months ago. I bet it had to be 5 months ago when someone posted it as a picture on their Facebook page. And I'd used that as kind of an inspiration to do my Sunday morning little sermonettes I have on Facebook. And I'd like to share with you, if I could, what I wrote, probably, I bet it's going on 4 months now, but I shared on a Sunday morning, I'm guessing the end of the summer, beginning of the fall. It goes like this. I got to thinking about my life and how it's been broken. Like a glass that's falling off the kitchen table and smashed into pieces on the tile floor below. I felt and looked broken. How about you? Ever felt that way? Has it ever seemed like your life was in pieces? When I look back and think of how I was put together, how people in my life repaired me, I'm in awe of the love shared. When I recall the organizations and institutions that were there for me to be repaired, both physically and spiritually, I'm filled with a sense of gratitude that almost overwhelms me. I owe my life to people who were there for me and my family. Over and over again, I've been repaired. Time and again, the cracks have been filled with precious gifts of love, compassion, and humor. Don't ever forget humor. Don't ever forget the importance of humor. If not for so many people in my life, I'd still be lying on that floor, shattered, broken, sharp edges just waiting to cut someone who dared to touch me. But that's not what happened. That's not what's happening. If we stay on that floor, shattered and broken, with sharp edges waiting to cut anyone who comes close, we're victims. But when we allow others to help us be repaired, when we allow others into our lives to help heal us, we become victims. We become witnesses. Instead of victims in life, we are witnesses to life. And in that process, we are made more beautiful than before. The artist Barbara Bloom said this about Kintsukuroi: when something has suffered damage and has a history, it becomes more beautiful. Our story is filled with brokenness and shattered pieces, but our history of overcome what we've witnessed in life has made you and me more beautiful. I believe that with my whole heart. I believe that the cracks that have been repaired are filled with the love of people from all walks of life, people who now have a vested interest in our lives. And I think we owe it to ourselves and to them to bear witness to the beauty in life and to give our testimony to it. This is my testimony. I've laid on that cold floor, broken, both literally and figuratively. I found myself lying there. And the sharp edges just waiting to cut, thank God they were smoothed over. Sanded down by the love of an angel. This was a lot easier last night when I read it. Elisa is that angel. And she is indeed more precious than gold. My children, Matt and Corey, have picked me up and put me back together more times than I can count. They too are more precious than the finest metals. Dear friends and colleagues have held the pieces together when I wasn't strong enough. They've acted as the glue that holds these pieces together. And I don't see their faces when I think of them. I see gold. The list goes on to include neighbors and acquaintances, a church congregation, community members, and even strangers. I bear witness that I am indeed blessed. I've screamed out in pain on more nights than I can count. And each time I've been healed in ways that help me forget the pain. I've cried out to God, demanding to know why. And each time the pieces of those times were mended with love and compassion. I bear witness to that. I've gone through the hell of 72 plus hours of drug withdrawal, where I thought I was going to die. And truth be told, I wanted to. And although my memory is a little cloudy of that time, when I look back, I bear witness that that part of my history was filled with the preciousness of family and friends who held me together. I've fallen out of bed, downstairs, up steps, over curbs, in the shower, in the kitchen, out the store, and out of the car. And I have all the scabs, scars, lumps, and bumps that go along with each incident. I bear witness to an orphan disease that might be robbing my strength, but ain't going to rob my spirit. I bear witness to the beauty of my history. I've been in dark places, places so dark that made me question my own desire to go on with life. I've been in a place that was so dark, I told my family to take my off-duty gun, the one I kept when I retired, and hide it in a place where I'd never find it. That's how bad the pain, both physical and emotional, had gotten. I bear witness to that part of my life that was shattered, that has been put back together with compassion and mercy. I've been broke. Not just broken, I've been broke. Eating Kraft macaroni and cheese for dinner because that's all I could afford, broke. And now some 10 years later, because of me and this disease, we've experienced financial hardship in ways you might not understand. We're not out of the woods yet, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. And in that light, there is hope. I bear witness that my family has been mended and made more beautiful because of this history. This is my testimony. It's more than my history. It's more than my story. This is the testimony of a life that is filled with the precious memories and held together with the love of precious people. And I bet I'm not alone. I bet I'm not the only one. I bet right now you can picture the face or faces of people more precious than gold. You and me, we've been put together more times than we can count. And each time when it felt like we'd be lying on that cold floor forever, something wonderful happened and we were repaired. We've been repaired and we're being repaired with the preciousness of love and promises of a wonderful life. Kintsukuroi is more than a belief in an abstract philosophy. It's an understanding that our life's history is beautiful, that our lives are beautiful. We were never made to be victims. We've been made to bear witness to the beauty of life. Yeah, that wasn't easy, was it? You know, I wrote that, I guess it had to be 3 or 4 months ago. I don't know if you remember, Elise. It was probably the end of the summer, beginning of fall. And I think it still holds true and probably will hold true the rest of my life, those words. We don't have to see ourselves as victims. We have a choice not to at least see ourselves as victims. And I do believe with my whole heart that we are made more beautiful because of how we're repaired and how we're being repaired. You know, this morning's reading from Matthew's Gospel, Jesus says, "You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world." He doesn't say them and he and she and those, and he doesn't even say we and us. Jesus says, you are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. There are no caveats and no qualifiers to it. It doesn't read, you are the salt of the earth or the light of the world because you're perfect. It simply reads, you are the salt of the earth and the light of the world. But I think our culture strives for perfection. And it seems, at least to me, that when we don't reach it, we see ourselves as somehow broken or inferior. We tend to compare ourselves to others who are perfect. Athletes who gain fame by scoring that perfect 10. Models whose bodies are a 10. Students who score 100 on tests or get that 4.0 GPA. Other people who are in perfect shape and maybe whose doctors have told them they're in perfect health. We look at them and we compare our brokenness to their perfectness. I don't know if that's a word, but spell check didn't underline it in red, so I'm sticking with it. Now, what was shared this morning in Matthew's Gospel comes right at the end of the Beatitudes. Everyone hearing it was broken. This is the Sermon on the Mount. This is where Jesus says, blessed are those who are poor in spirit. Blessed are those who are sad. Blessed are those who suffer. People he was speaking to were certainly broken like you and me. Tomorrow is a day of service. A day we honor and celebrate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I don't think anyone could argue against him trying to repair the broken, of him making every effort to fill the brokenness with the healing power of love. It was, quite literally, his dream. Maybe tomorrow, you and me, We can see past the brokenness in the people we meet. We can see the beauty in the way they're repaired. And maybe we can do our part to repair some of the brokenness we come across in this journey with others. Maybe starting with you and me, right here in this little community of ours, we can do our part in seeing that tomorrow isn't just another federal holiday. Maybe it's how a dream becomes a reality. My hope, my wish, my prayer for each and every one of you is that you'll see your history as a testament to the beauty of your life, and that you'll see the beauty in the way you've been repaired in the hands of God. Amen and amen. Let us